joining us could see that there is a chat button at the middle. So in case if you want to write something, share or comment, so please feel free to write it down. I always ask this: can you hear us properly? So if any one of you can just type a yes or a thumbs up, that would give us an idea that we're good. Thank you, Hiba. Great.
Getting lots of yeses.
Yes.
Lovely. And hopefully you can hear me too. Okay.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah.
Can you sense the energy already, Maheen?
Yeah, I can feel it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I was telling everybody, Anita, nice to see you as well. Well, not see you, but see your name. Okay, someone has said, can hear you both in the Q&A. Yes, I was telling Muzaffar earlier that this is the first time that I'm doing something using the webinar function of Zoom. And it's interesting, the idea that I can't see all of you, but I am happy that I can see Muzaffar and that I can feel all your energy. So thank you all for being here.
So I guess let's start. And everyone, whoever has some questions coming up, use the Q&A window. And towards the end, I would look into the Q&A window and ask and moderate those questions with Maheen. But let's start. I'm really excited. I think this is one session which I was really looking forward to. And so some of you might have known Maheen already, and she's already been a visitor to VLC in 2017 when we did our orientation. She came and actually spoke to the parents. So welcome back, Maheen. And just a quick introduction. Even though we've sent the introduction out, but I would like to introduce you again. So the formal introduction is that Maheen is, has been a school psychologist and in Canada and Pakistan. She's an accredited Breathworks mindfulness teacher from the UK and a certified mindful schools instructor from the US. That's a US mindful schools, a US organization.
That's right. Yeah.
And she's also done a 2-year mindfulness teacher training program with Tara Brach and Jack Confield, which is, I know is an amazing program. I have known Maheen since 2016, the same year I started VLC, our paths crossed. And her nephew was attending a course there at VLC, and then I happened to come and join her class, the course which she offers on this one on stress management, which is fantastic. And I think, if I have to formally say, I couldn't think of a better way of introducing, but I would say that she's a leader of sorts in this community in Pakistan, and she's built a beautiful tribe over the last few years of mindfulness practitioners, and she continues to give. Can you hear me? I think someone said can't hear you.
You had cut out for a little bit, Muzaffar, and I think you're cutting out a little bit again.
Can you hear us? Let me try. I'm going to stop very soon. Hopefully, I think what you think. Can you hear me?
I heard that just now. Yes, I think we can hear that. I think it's, but your face is frozen, which is all right.
Yeah. So in case if I lose you again, I am reconnecting. But Maheen, I think this is a good time for me to stop and for you to start. I could go on and on. So the topic is that we are looking into self-compassion and what is self-compassion, and especially during these times when I think everyone is struggling, and they're also struggling to give compassion to themselves also. And at VLC, we talk about compassion a lot. And when I was thinking about giving a talk on compassion, I couldn't think of anyone but you. I mean, your picture just keep coming to my mind. So if you could, get us started, tell us a little bit more about your journey, and take us from where you want to take us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Muzaffar. I hope that you all can hear me okay. If there's any, disturbance, do let me know. I want to just start by recognizing and just naming the fact that we are in difficult times. We're in difficult times. It's hard. Everything that's happening is really hard. And the larger truth of it all is that life is hard. That, right now, acutely, we can feel a lot of it. We can feel it with the uncertainty of, so many of us, we've changed the way we're living right now. Maybe we're, restricting who we're seeing and how much we're going out and all of those things to keep ourselves and our communities and our loved ones safe. And there's also maybe people we care about getting ill. There's the fear of getting ill. Then there's all the economic uncertainties that might come up, uncertainties about school and children and all of those kinds of things. And I know that it's been really hard for all of you, and I know it's been hard for VLC as well, to not be able to be open and not have your children there. And so these are difficult times. And oftentimes, it seems what happens, and at least this has been my experience, and I think the experience of many people, that when we're facing difficulty, when we're struggling, there's this sense that we shouldn't be struggling, or a sense that there's something wrong with the fact that we're struggling. And I don't know about you all, but certainly I know that during these, few months, there was certainly a sense of, okay, well, I'm home. And so I should be, learning a new craft, taking all the classes I can take, being like spending as much time as possible with my nephews and giving them all my energy. And, all of these sort of shoulds came up. And even like kind of looking around at other people, and people are doing all crafty stuff and this and that, and suddenly it's like, oh, this sense of, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe there's something wrong with the way I'm operating in life. Just that kind of thought can come up, and I know that it has for many people. And I'm curious, you can just type in a yes if you've experienced something like that, a sense of, I should be doing life better. Maybe not necessarily during this time, but maybe even just in general life. And I'm seeing comments right now, yes, all the time. Yes, this is something that happens. We tend to live our lives with a lot of shoulds. There's this little voice, there's this guy or girl or whatever, there's a person inside of us who's sort of sitting back, and I kind of think of it as, the person who's watching someone else clean and says, oh, you missed a spot. Yeah, you missed a spot, do that better. There's this voice, this inner critic that so many of us have, that's always with us, that's always pointing out the stuff that we're not doing right, the things that we should be doing better. And the truth of the matter is that life is hard, and we all struggle, and we don't always have the energy to do everything, and we don't always do things right, and we certainly don't do things perfectly. The idea that we should be doing things perfectly is, it's really, it's kind of ridiculous. And so there's, the truth is, and I can guarantee this, that all of us, every single one of us on this call, there's 57 people on this call right now, that all of us, every single one of us, from this moment on till the day that we leave this earth, we are going to make all kinds of mistakes, and we're going to mess up. We're going to mess up in our relationships. We're going to mess up at work. We're going to mess up with our children. We're going to mess up, and we have been so far, and we will continue to do so, because we are human. And oftentimes there's a sense that we shouldn't, we shouldn't be feeling the way we do. We shouldn't be making the mistakes we make. So what's really interesting about all of this is that if we had a friend who was struggling, maybe struggling in the same way that we were, if we had a friend who was really maybe, feeling like they're not quite good enough, maybe they're feeling like, oh my gosh, they lose their job, or they're struggling financially, or they're struggling because it's really hard to raise children, which it is, or they're struggling because, they feel like they're not quite keeping, doing things as well as they wish they were. And if we had a friend who was struggling in that way, we would respond to them very differently. For many of us, we would respond to them very differently than we do ourselves. And I'd like to just take a moment to pause and really reflect on that for a moment. That if you had a friend who was maybe struggling in some way, maybe they lost their job or they are struggling with health issues and they're feeling terrible, or they're struggling with, child rearing, what might be something you might say to them? Or and they say, oh, I'm failing, I'm messing everything up so badly. What might be something you might say to them? How would you be with them? I'm seeing maybe a hand raise, but actually, if you could maybe just type it into the chat. What might you say to your friend? How would you be with them? What would your body language be like? What would your someone says focus on positives, maybe focus on what are the things you're doing right. Someone says empathy, listen to them and be empathetic, try to console them. Yeah, empathy. I'm hearing a lot of empathy. Absolutely. We all struggle, somebody says. We all struggle. Just breathe. Say you're doing the best you can, and body language full of compassion. You've got this. It's okay to make mistakes. Wow, I'm loving these responses. Yeah, you all, there's so much compassion, obviously, that we can offer. And that comes it comes so much, so naturally often when we think about a friend. Now, take a moment to reflect on if you were the one who was struggling in some way, and we all know this. Well, we've all struggled. If you're the one who maybe loses a job or is struggling, maybe you yell at your kids or you let them have to, you give them a lot of screen time, or you have a fight with your spouse, or there's something difficult going on in your life. What are often the kinds of things that you say to yourself? And how is your body language? What is the tone of voice that usually shows up? Somebody says it's not our own personal baggage. And so compassion is easier to come by with other people, whereas with ourselves, the voice is harsh. Yeah. And that's often the case. Someone says, yeah, I'm not good enough. Irritated, stressed out. Absolutely. Harsh and annoyed. Yeah. We are our own worst critics. Absolutely. And then maybe self-pity of like, why me? Someone says, I would give myself a break. I would say it's perfectly fine not to be perfect all the time. That's wonderful. I'm so, it's so nice to hear that response as well. And a lot of, other people are saying stressed. And the truth is, for many of us, not for all of us perhaps, but for many of us, there's often a different kind of response that shows up for ourselves versus for friends. We tend to be a lot harsher with ourselves. We tend to be more critical, and we tend to be much more, the body language is also a bit stiffer. Maybe we get contracted and there's a feeling of stress. And then someone even mentioned, the self-pity of why me? Why do bad things always happen to me? And the thing is that self-compassion, what's really interesting about this is that we have this tendency to be compassionate with everybody else, but we don't include ourselves in that circle of care. Many times, a lot of the time, we don't include ourselves in that circle of care. And this is the case definitely, for many of us, and I think there's a lot of things that get in the way of it. We worry that maybe if I'm really kind to myself, I'll end up not motivated to do things. Maybe I'll end up lost in self-pity. There's a lot of ways. And then I think there's also a lot of cultural conditioning. This idea the culture tells us that be good to other people, and there's almost a sense of you don't need to be that good to yourself. Yes, somebody says we've never been taught how to be kind to ourselves. And the beauty of it is we do know how to be kind because we can offer that to other people, no problem. So self-compassion is really just about including ourselves in the circle. It's not about saying only me, but it's saying me too, me as well, including ourselves in the circle of compassion. And that's really what it's about, of giving ourselves the same kindness, the same care that we would a friend. Yes. Someone says that self-compassion equals being selfish, says the culture. Absolutely. Absolutely. The culture tells us that. And self-sacrifice is lauded. Absolutely. And the truth is that self-compassion isn't about being selfish, because again, it's just including ourselves. It's not saying only me, it's including ourselves. Um, it's also a lot easier. It's a lot easier to, um, it's a lot easier to offer ourselves compassion when we recognize that this is just something everybody deserves. You know, it's a lot easier to do that. And especially because we know how to do it. We know how to do it for other people. And this is the case for many, many people. I'm just seeing that, I don't know if I'm frozen and if you all can still hear me, just if I could just get a yes, if you can still hear me. Yes, okay, perfect, thank you. All right. Yeah, just give me a moment. I want to get back to where I was at. Yeah, so I just want to say that there's, you know, even for me, I mean, especially for me too, I just, you know, it started off for me that I used to be really, really hard on myself, really, really hard on myself for years. And I had these stories about myself, which we often have. We have these stories about ourselves. And when we don't live up to those stories, there can be a lot of harshness. And my stories about myself were many, and two of them were that I'm often happy, that I'm quite happy all the time, and that I kind of go through difficulties and bounce back really easily. So that was one story. And another big story that I had about myself was that you know, I just kind of, I have it all together. I'm really emotionally intelligent. And so I can, you know, I know my emotions. I know, you know, but really what I did a lot of the time was avoid what I was feeling, especially when I was struggling, because it didn't fit with my story and it made me, I felt shame about it. And I came across, I started to practice self-compassion. And I remember I had this therapist who used to say to me, and, you know, we'd be talking about something and I'd say, yes, but I should have, yes, but I should have this, you know, this should have happened. I should have been this way. And she would say to me, Maheen, you too are one of the humans. And we sometimes tend to forget that we're human and that we, you know, that we too are deserving of love and compassion, that we too are deserving of love and care. So conceptually, you know, it's simple. Yes, we should be included in compassion just like everybody else. And in practice, it's really hard. It can be really hard. And it can be really hard because we have built up a lifetime of criticizing ourselves. We've got and also our brains are you know, developed to survive. And so we've got this, you know, threat detection system. So we're always looking for, you know, problems to solve anyway. So there's also that. Okay. So there's not just our own experiences and our own sort of, you know, habits, but there's also this collective, you know, system that we have. This our biology is such that we're built to survive and to look out for threats and to, you know, always find problems to solve. So that's the other piece of it. And again, you know, there's the cultural stuff, the conditioning of it's selfish, or, you know, if you're nice to yourself, you won't get anything done, which actually isn't true. You can be really honest with yourself and firm with yourself. And at this, oh, I'm freezing. Okay. Oh, okay. It's, yes. All right. People can hear me. This is the beauty, right? This is the beauty of technology. And, you know, where I'm here and I can't always tell whether you're receiving what I'm saying or not because it might be freezing. And in a moment like that, for me, and I'll just share it in this moment, you know, it brings up my own anxiousness. Oh, you know, and that's a moment where I need to offer myself self-compassion, a moment of care of, okay, you know, yeah, it's difficult to not know whether what I'm saying is being received. So just, you know, again, self-compassion is something that can really be offered in the moment. So, you know, a point I want to make is that it's much easier to be honest with ourselves when we meet ourselves with compassion. So, for example, the stories I told you about earlier that I had about myself, it was really hard for me to admit to myself that I'm not always happy. And I mean, now that I think about it, my goodness, what a high and ridiculously unachievable benchmark I had kept for myself, that I'm always going to be happy, or that I'm always going to have it all together. So it was really hard for me to admit it, because admitting it, I had these ideas of this, if this is what makes me special, and if it isn't true, then what's special about me? And that was really hard. And it was only when I was able to meet that with compassion of like, oh yeah, those are stories about me, and that, but they're not actually true. They're not true. It doesn't mean that I'm, not worthy of anything if I can't live up to these, unreasonably high standards. So it was only with compassion that I was able to really see clearly what was happening. I was actually able to witness myself, and to be, and to actually know what my experience was, what my thoughts were, because before that I was just avoiding. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know because I worried about what it meant about me, and the criticism was too harsh. So self-compassion actually allows us to be much more honest with ourselves. And I found that to be so transformative in my own journey, in my personal journey, and to be able to actually see what it means to be me, to be able to accept myself with kindness and care without judging everything. I still have my moments, like when I said earlier that, when the lockdown happened and seeing other people and the things I thought I should be doing, yeah, that still happens sometimes. It still happens. And then I see it. Oh, yes. Okay. That's what's happening. And I can offer myself some care. Then maybe it's okay if I decide to spend a day sleeping because I'm exhausted and I feel a little bit, down, or whatever it might be. And that's okay. And then the system, kind of recharges, and then I go on with life. So just offering, so this still happens. And because of my self-compassion practice, I find that it's just so much easier. I'm usually able to really kind of meet myself with care, even in these moments of difficulty. I want to pause for a moment, just because what I'd really like to do actually is a practice with you guys. I'd like to do a bit of a practice. And because it's, like I said, the conceptually, it kind of makes sense, hopefully for all of you as well, that we should be part of our own circle of compassion. It's, it's not, we deserve the same care and kindness that anybody else does. And but the difficulty that comes up is, well, how? And the thing is, it takes time and it takes practice. And what I want to offer you today is 2 simple practices that can be done on the go. They can be done at any time. We're going to do them today as a little bit of a guided meditation where I'll guide you through them. But really, you can do them on the go at any time. So the first one, actually, before we get into it, I want to just tell you a little bit about what self-compassion is. So, we're talking about self-compassion. What is it? So I talked about the seeing clearly part. So that's really, the first thing. So when we're struggling, so much of the time, we kind of say, oh, I don't want to know, I don't want to feel it, that we don't actually see it clearly. So the first thing, one of the important aspects of self-compassion is mindfulness, is actually seeing the fact that we're struggling, seeing it clearly. It's like, oh, okay, yes, I'm struggling. And rather than getting caught in it and believing sort of maybe the thoughts that are running around in our head, just seeing them for what they are. So, if I have a thought where I'm sitting here and I'm sitting here in a webinar with you guys a little while ago, and I lost my train of thought for a moment because of, the potential freezing issues. And a thought goes through my head saying, oh my goodness, you can't even keep your thoughts straight, right? That's a thought and that did come up. And I see that, I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, there you are. And I can see it clearly, but I'm not buying into it. I'm not believing it. So I'm not identifying with that thought. So that's the first part, and that's mindfulness. Okay. Another part is to recognize that we're all struggling, that struggling is a part of life. This idea that we need to be sailing through life is untrue. And that we all struggle, everybody, no matter how they look, no matter what it seems like on social media, everybody struggles, everybody does. So recognizing that I'm not alone, that we're not alone in this. We're not alone, absolutely. Shared humanity, common humanity, absolutely. So that's the other piece. And it's really hard to remember that sometimes. So that's an essential aspect of self-compassion. And then the third piece is self-kindness. Is offering ourselves some care, some kindness, maybe saying words to ourselves that we really need to hear in that moment. Maybe offering, kindness to ourselves by offering ourselves a physical touch, a soothing or supportive touch, which we're going to do a little bit of a practice with. So just offering ourselves some care and kindness in that moment. So those are the three components. One is mindfulness, so seeing clearly and not getting caught in our thoughts and not getting caught in what's happening, but just seeing it clearly. The second is the common humanity. I'm not alone in this. Struggling is a part of life. Everybody struggles. And the third one is self-kindness. So I'd like to do two practices, as I mentioned earlier. And we're going to do two practices. And for this, what I'd like you to do, if it's possible, I don't know where you are, but I'd like you to just sit in a way where you can be comfortable. And it's often useful to sit upright so that you can be alert yet relaxed. Okay, so you don't want your spine to be stiff, but you want to have, sort of your head on top of your shoulders, on top of your spine, on top of your hips. Just have that sense of alertness, but also be relaxed. And you might wish to place your hands gently in your lap. If you're sitting on a chair, maybe have your feet flat on the floor, if possible. And just beginning by, if you'd like to, you may close your eyes if you wish to, but you don't have to. You can either keep your eyes closed or partially open or fully open. If your eyes are open, you might want to just look sort of a few feet ahead of you onto the ground, just so that, you can reduce stimulus to the eyes. We're going to start with a practice called soothing touch. And the thing is that we have this, because we're mammals, we actually have this soothing system. We've got this system in us that we can kind of soothe ourselves and each other. And one of the things that's a really powerful gateway to compassion is soothing touch, is touch. And we know this, right? When our children are sick, we rub their heads, we rub their backs, we give each other hugs. So touch is really, it can be really powerful in bringing up that sense of compassion. So it's a really wonderful place to start compassion even for ourselves. And what we're going to do here is we're going to try a few different ways of offering ourselves a soothing touch. And this is really an exploration, because I'm going to lead you through these, and you can just see if there's any that really resonate with you. Maybe there's one or more than one. Any that really resonate with you. And so really seeing if you can bring a sense of curiosity to this and just checking in to see what happens as you try these. So beginning first by just holding one hand with the other. Just holding one hand with the other, maybe placing them in your lap. And maybe you want to stroke one hand with the other thumb. Really feeling the contact. And just noticing what it feels like for you. And then taking one hand and placing it at the heart. Feeling the contact, the warmth and gentle pressure of the hand on the heart. Maybe you can feel the movement of the chest with each breath. And just bringing in this intention of kindness, perhaps imagining kindness flowing through your hand into the body. And then trying maybe two hands, both hands at the heart. So noticing what that feels like. And now cupping one hand into a fist, placing it at the heart, and then with the other hand holding the fist, just cupping the fist with the second hand. We're just exploring here, seeing what feels most soothing to you, because it's different for everybody. So this is just an opportunity to explore. And then one hand at the belly and one hand at the heart. Try both hands at the belly, maybe one on top of the other. And then trying one hand holding a cheek. And then both hands holding both cheeks. And just again, that intention of kindness, imagining kindness flowing in through the hands into the face. And then with your hands, just stroking your arms, just stroking gently. And crossing your arms and giving yourself a gentle squeeze. And then a hand at the heart again, and just gently stroking the chest, maybe back and forth or in little circles. And then cupping the hands in the lap. So one hand in the other. And now, for the next few moments, if there was one in particular, one or two in particular that really resonated or felt soothing in some way, just trying that one again, just for the next few moments. And from here, we're going to go into our next practice, and you will be able to use your soothing touch in this practice if it's helpful. So we're going to do a practice called self-compassion break, where we're going to use all the parts of self-compassion and bring them together to give ourselves some care, to offer ourselves some compassion. And in order to do this, I'm inviting you, I'd like to invite you to think of a situation in your life that's difficult in some way. Now, what's really important is that for this exercise, you don't think of the most difficult thing, because we're just trying something out here. We're practicing. And if you think of the most difficult thing, it may get too overwhelming. So think of a struggle that maybe you're having right now, or that you've had recently, that's just caused some stress. Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 3 or a 4. Maybe it's an argument with somebody, or something that happened with one of your children. Maybe you yelled at a child or something like that. Maybe a work problem, or maybe even that you're having a friend who's struggling, someone you care for who's struggling in some way. So just taking a moment to bring that situation into your heart and mind. And as you do so, you might be noticing the discomfort in your body as you bring up this problem. And if not, if you don't feel the discomfort, then maybe think of something slightly more difficult, because we do want to bring up a little bit of discomfort so that we have a situation where we can offer ourselves some care. And as you notice the difficulty arise, the discomfort arise, just saying to yourself, this is a moment of difficulty. This is hard. Just offering yourself that gift of mindfulness, of seeing clearly that this is difficult. Noticing what it feels like to just acknowledge the difficulty. The purpose of this isn't to make the difficulty go away, it's simply to meet it with care and kindness, because it is here. So again, this is a moment of difficulty, or this is hard, this hurts. And then offering yourself the reminder of common humanity, that difficulty is a part of life. Just saying that to yourself. I'm not alone in this. Other people struggle in the same way. This is how it feels when people struggle. I am not alone. And now placing a hand at the heart, or adapting one of the soothing touches that felt most supportive to you, that you discovered felt right to you. And whatever you do, wherever you offer yourself this soothing touch, just feeling that contact for a moment. Feeling the warmth of your hands, the gentleness of this touch. Imagining kindness flowing into the body from the hand or the hands. And then saying to yourself, may I be kind to myself. May I give myself what I need. Even something like, I'm here for you. I've got your back. Or any other words. Maybe there's some particular words that you really need to hear right now. And just offering those words to yourself. Maybe the words that you would say to a friend who is struggling in the same way. Some options might be, may I accept myself as I am? Or if that seems too hard, may I begin to accept myself as I am? May I forgive myself? May I be patient? So just for the next moment or so, continuing to offer yourself this soothing touch and any words that feel right in this moment. And then when you're ready, just settling, pausing, noticing what the heart feels like, what the mind feels like, what the body feels like. And if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. And if you were looking down or had them partially open, just gently bringing awareness back to the screen, to the space. And there's no particular way that you should be feeling. So just noticing what's here right now. Letting yourself be as you are and letting your experience be as it is. Thank you so much, everyone, for trying that out with me today. I am very interested in hearing from you in terms of what you noticed doing these two practices, the soothing touch and the self-compassion break. So maybe what we can start doing is just in the chat, if you'd like to just mention, and if you, I don't know, I think you should have the option to send the chat to all panelists and attendees.
Yes, we do. Everyone
Okay,
does.
great. So that way everyone, other people can see as well. Just maybe if you'd like to just write down if there was a particular soothing touch that really was supportive for you. What did you notice? Someone said, I loved holding my hands and holding arms like a hug. Yeah. Someone says this felt great. Yeah. Someone says they feel relaxed. It helped a lot. I loved stroking my arm. And someone says, soothing touch was amazing. I don't think I have consciously done that ever. The two hands cupping the face made me feel like a child again. The touch at the belly gave me butterflies. Yeah. I've learned to be self-compassionate in my parenting journey. I can be kinder to my child when I'm kind to myself. So true. I felt more connected to myself. Holding myself felt awkward but soothing. Yes, thank you. It can be strange. This is new. Someone else mentioned that. Someone else said that that this is the first time I've done this with myself, and it's true for so many of us. It is. It can it might be the first time for so many of you. I know when I first did it, it may have felt awkward at first. It felt, parts of it felt strange. And there was, for me, I really took to holding, my hand at the heart. And that's been a big support for me ever since. So For those of you where it felt a little awkward, yeah, it's new and it's strange. But isn't it amazing that something so simple as just offering ourselves touch can feel so powerful, that can make such a big impact? Now, it's not going to make the difficulty go away, the situation that we're struggling with, or the difficulties we have in life. It's not going to make those struggles go away, but it allows us to just give ourselves some comfort and gives a little bit of ease. Thank you so much, those of you who are continuing to write in. I really appreciate it. And someone says, how can we connect the soothing touch concept to our consciousness, to our conscience, to practically soothe ourselves in upsetting situations? That's a really great question. How do we do this? How do we remember to do this? And what it is, it's a little bit of practice. It's a little bit of practice. And so I'm going to invite you all to practice this, maybe consciously, at least for the next week. And I'll ask Muzaffar to remind you all to do this. Maybe just a reminder that, that to try and practice this consciously, maybe and it's, it can be done anywhere. I mean, maybe if you're like in a meeting, maybe you don't want to do the hands on the cheek thing, or you do, and that's okay. Either way is okay. But there's so many that you can do even when you're in public. You can hold your hands together, cup your hands. You can give yourself, you can fold your arms and give yourself a little bit of a hug without anyone really knowing what you're doing, So this can really be done anywhere, and it's a beautiful practice for on the go. Ah, yes, someone says, I've seen my son hugging himself. It's a VLC practice, and yet never hugged myself until today. Beautiful. How lovely to know that VLC is teaching all of this. Yes, how amazing to know how much touch sense can change your mind and make you relax. I'd also love to hear from you all about what it was like. And there's some questions here. Let me see.
There are.
Okay.
And do you want me to read this question out for you? So you want to read, so there's an anonymous attendee, the 2 questions, and I think they're important.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Why don't we go for those? And then I do want to have a few moments to hear from people about the other practice as well, the self-compassion break, and what that was like. So let's just take a few moments of this, and then, yeah.
So the question is, I practice mindful meditations but end up going to sleep. I wonder why is that? I have a hunch it is because my body is trying to protect me from bringing up trauma.
Great question. And you're not alone in that experience. For a lot of people, they practice mindfulness and they end up going to sleep. It can be, yes, sometimes sleep response can be because of trauma. And sometimes it could be just because you're tired, and that we're often so much on the go that when we pause and stop, it can end up, giving a signal to the body of it's time to go to sleep. So that's another possibility as well. Either way, what might be useful would be to try, shorter periods, maybe to try it in a different posture. If you're lying down when you're practicing, that makes it easier to fall asleep. See if you can do it sitting up, or if that doesn't, if that still brings up a sleep response, maybe try standing, or try walking. There's walking meditation that can be done as well. It's not, it doesn't have to be that you must always be sitting. The other piece of it is also that you can try bringing daily practices into your life. And I'm not going to get too much into the mindfulness practices since our focus is more on self-compassion here today. But just, there's a lot of practices you can do to bring mindful awareness into your daily life. And just like, the soothing touch is an informal practice, you can do that at any time. There's ways where you can just pause, take a breath, notice what's here for you, feel your feet on the floor. So there's ways you can bring awareness to your day, which doesn't necessarily, you don't have to do it in a formal practice. So there's different levels, and you can see what, how that works for you.
Thanks, Maheen. So the second question is, how do we reassure ourselves that everyone is going through that difficulty when the thing actually is never discussed or talked about? What if we never hear anyone saying that we have this problem, and all this while we think it's just us? This feeling can be so suffocating.
That's such an important question. And it's true, isn't it? We go through life everybody's acting like they're all okay, and we don't admit it to each other. We barely admit it to ourselves half the time. And I think, you know, I want to just come back to the very beginning of our session when I asked that question, when I asked that question of who here feels that, that sometimes that you're not doing life, you're not doing it well enough, and other people seem to have it so much more together. And a number of people typed in yes, so you're definitely not alone. You're definitely not alone. Right here in this community, we have a number of people, everybody here struggles. This is a part of life. The other thing is that, we can, when we hear that, I don't know about you all, I don't know if this is what it felt like for you, but when I first heard that everybody struggles and really recognized the truth of that, I felt relief. Oh my God, it's not just me. And so perhaps trusting that if you share with those people that you do feel safe with, that you feel you can share your vulnerabilities with, that you share with them that you're struggling, it'll be a relief for them as well to know that they're not alone either. And that's one piece of it. And then the other piece of it is that we need to have more conversations. We need to have more sessions and conversations where we see each other, we see each other's humanity, and we recognize that we are not alone, that we're not alone.
That's true, Maheen. I think while I was having the practice, I noticed myself a lot of emotions coming up for me, and it was just like this compassion practice. Even though I'm such a believer, but I so forget to do this. Like, I haven't done this in so long, and it just felt so needed at this time. I think being in a leadership position and being a father and the man of the house and everything, there's a lot of this thing that, oh, I've got everything in control. And, self-compassion so sometimes takes the back seat so easily that I don't even notice. And so thank you. I loved the compassionate break practice. Before we go into that, we have one question, which is interesting one. Siddharth is asking, who's your favorite international mindfulness teacher?
I want to just respond to something you said, Muzaffar, first, and then I'll answer the question. I just, actually, it's not even a response. I want to just say that leaders like yourself, Muzaffar, who are, openly talking about your own struggles, just the fact that you just said that right now, I think offers a lot of comfort to people, because oftentimes we think people in leadership positions have it all together, and so and you said something like that to me earlier in our conversation, this idea of like, it's nice to know that there's teachers who also struggle, and I do, I practice self-compassion. It doesn't mean that I don't have self-doubt. I was telling Muzaffar earlier that when he had told me that this session was going to be recorded, and I felt this little bit of anxiety of like, oh my goodness, I'll watch the recording later and I'll notice all the things that I said that I could have said better. And you know how it is, right? We pick on ourselves so much. And I noticed that, and I'm like, oh yes, I can offer myself care for that. That, yeah, and it might be hard for me to watch it. It might be, and my mind will come up and tell me all kinds of things. And then I can offer myself some compassion for that of, yeah, I'm just longing to be, I have the same longing that we all do, to be seen and to, to do well and to be appreciated and accepted and all of those kinds of things. And I can see that longing in myself, and I can offer care for that. I can offer love for that. So thank you, Muzaffar, for your comments as well. Yeah. And then as to who is my favorite international mindfulness teacher. So I actually have a lot of teachers. I have a lot of teachers that I really like. I don't have one. I can't say one favorite. Some people are really sort of have allegiance to one person, and I don't, because I've learned so much from so many people. But I would say teachers who are just absolutely spectacular are, well, my teachers, Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock, for sure. There's another teacher named Gil Fronsdale, who I really, really love a lot. And then, yeah, we have Jake Davis, who's one of my teachers, who offers actually a weekly guided meditation to our Karachi Sangha, which anybody is welcome to join, Muzaffar, if they get in touch with you and you pass it on to me. We have a weekly session on Wednesdays where he guides the meditation and then takes a Q&A. It's a really fantastic opportunity for anyone who's interested. And then, yeah, and then I have Chris McKenna and Megan Cowan. Muzaffar, you've experienced them as well. They're really, really lovely.
Steve?
Yeah.
Would you
So
add Steve?
yeah, oh yes, absolutely. Steve, I've yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Stephen Smith. That's what I'm saying. There's so many I, can't even keep track. And there's more people I haven't mentioned for sure. So there's many, many. Yeah. We have
Just
a
one
few hands.
question.
Okay.
Ali Qasim is asking, and then Muniba, you raised your hand, so we will ask you to speak up. The question is, sometimes there is no one you can talk to about your feelings and you feel like all emotions are being captured inside. What do you do to release that, or is it okay to keep them inside?
Hmm. So yeah, keeping them inside is something we often do. And often it's not just that we're keeping them inside within ourselves, we're even keeping them from ourselves. So oftentimes the first step is just even recognizing our own struggle, our own emotion. If there isn't anybody to talk to, and it can be really, really helpful to talk to somebody. Maybe at that time it's worthwhile to seek out resources such as therapy, um, and other than just offering yourself the care, offering yourself compassion, just recognizing it within yourself. And even, this idea of like, I don't have anyone to talk to, and that really hurts. That too is something that we can recognize in ourselves and just offer ourselves some compassion for that of, that's really hard. I feel alone. If that's the way the feeling is, I'm feeling alone. Yeah.
Zainab is asking how to soothe ourselves when we know that there are others going through the same situation, but you feel that they're managing it better. The
Hmm. The comparing mind. The comparing mind is such a, it's always there. I heard a quote recently. Oh my goodness. And I'm probably going to destroy it, but I'll do my best. Mhm.
It destroys both things.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. To compare two things is to destroy them both. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
To compare two things is to destroy them both. And I use the word destroy earlier. That's funny. Anyway, um, you know, I think maybe sometimes we just need to remind ourselves that we don't actually know what we don't actually know what other people are going through. We don't know what's happening with them, and the mind will try to tell us that, well, you're definitely not doing it as well as them. You're definitely behind. You're not self-compassionate enough. You're not mindful enough. You're not good enough. It's going to tell you all of those things. So just saying like, all right, I see you. It's again, it's just the part of us that's wanting to be loved and accepted, and in the world by ourselves and by others. So just seeing that part of ourselves and offering ourselves care for that. So that's what, just saying that, oh, even that is a reason to offer ourselves compassion right then and there, that, my goodness, I feel like everybody else is doing it so well and it's so hard for me. It feels like it's so hard for me. Like, yeah, that's really hard. It's a hard way to feel. It's a painful thing to feel. Yeah.
Thank you, Maheen. I think we just have last question because we promised to end this session in an hour and we're just
Sure.
at 1 hour.
Okay. Yes.
Muniba is asking how effective are the online mindfulness videos? So the resources available online.
I would say it depends on who the teacher is. There's some fantastic teachers, and the videos are amazing and the practices are amazing. The teachers I mentioned are fantastic. Tara Brock, Jack Cornfield, excuse me, Gil Fronsdale, Stephen Smith. I don't know if he has a whole bunch of stuff out there, but you can find his talks and things like that. There's Chris McKenna, Megan Cowan. They're wonderful, wonderful teachers. Jake Davis. So you can find some videos that are amazing. And really, it's a question that you can answer for yourself. How useful are they for you? So, try it out and see if you find it useful. And that would, I think, really be the bigger answer more than anything else. Only you can know that, I suppose, to a certain degree. I can tell you which ones I like, but then it might be different for you. Yeah.
Great. We have a few more comments on the chat, but I could see that this is a topic which is close to a lot of people's hearts. So thank you so much, Maheen. I think this was a beautiful experience, and on behalf of the VLC community, I would love to thank you and hope to welcome you back at some point. And thank you so much for always being there for us. And I think the seed of mindfulness with VLC, if you don't know, was planted by you. I think that's why we have mindfulness as a full-time part of our curriculum, because of the discussion and the teachings you had helped me with. So thank you so much. And thank you all the participants, and I will be sharing out Maheen's contact details if for the courses which she offers from time to time. And for the Sangha, if anyone is interested to join, please send me a message and be happy to put you in touch with them. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you so much, Maheen. I think this was really good. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And Muzaffar, thank you for all the wonderful things you are offering for your school and the community. And it's really an honor and a pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you, everybody. So thank you for your time and your attention and, for trying out these practices with me. Really a pleasure to be with you all.
Good night and sleep well, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Khuda Hafiz.